right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here. And of course, I'm joined as always with my co-hosts, Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And decide. UAB loses 71-20.
Hold up. What was that score again?
Is it this basketball season?
71-20. I don't think I would have ever thought I'd see the day that UAB gave up more than 70 points.
Who was UAB basketball playing? Like, we were playing the pro team?
Hey,
we must have been playing like the Boston Celtics at 71.
Shout out to the basketball team, though. Hey, got to see the guys at halftime. So Yax, Christian, everybody. So
when is that first game?
It's less than a month now. So we are counting down.
Hey, since we're talking about basketball, I know we're totally off the rails, and that's going to be cool. That's going to be a common theme of the show today for our listeners.
Going forward, yeah.
Yeah, going forward. But I want the listeners, because we're talking about basketball, let's just throw this stat out there real quick. Last season, the UAB men's basketball team played Tulane twice, okay? In the first matchup, UAB won at Bartow Arena by a final score of 83-69. In the second matchup, UAB won at Tulane by a score of 78-67. Do y'all notice that in neither matchup did the UAB men's basketball team allow as many points to Tulane as the UAB football team did this past Saturday at Protector Stadium?
That is a wild stat.
Hey, Darren, he told us before, because this is our live reaction. Like, we wanted to hear it on the recording. Like, so UAB men's basketball gave up in both opportunities to Tulane this past season less points than the football team gave up yesterday.
That's correct.
Wow. 2 opportunities.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't just a one and done. It was, we had 2 game sample size, and in neither matchup did they give up as many points as the UAB football team did this past Saturday.
And you know what? We got that 71 put on us with 7 minutes left. We could have had easily 85, 90 points put on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is.
Well, this game recap episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast is brought to you by Cahaba Brewing Company.
Yes,
Shout out to Cahaba. We're going to spotlight the Oktoberfest today. Their seasonal, phenomenal beer. And special shout out to Cahaba. Like, right after the game, I had to go to Cahaba and just, see my favorite bartenders. And, they were there when I was down in the dumps yesterday because of the game. But shout out again to Cahaba for sponsoring this podcast. We are going to have less than 2 weeks. We are going to have our second UAB football watch party as UAB takes on South Florida. And we will know the game time Monday for that game.
Okay.
Hey, we should look for in like another sponsor with Cahaba, and I think it should be Uber or Lyft. Because we're gonna be like with this season going, we're gonna be UAB fans. We're gonna keep supporting the players. So we just gonna have to find ways to get through it. So, and you know what? I listen to other podcasts too, and they talk about better help or better health. It's just for if you need a therapist, online therapist. So I'm gonna reach out to, I think it's Better Health. We'll reach out to them because we got to protect our mental health over here. It's gonna be a tough season. At this point, we should all be strapped in, and it's looking.
I just love the visual
or anything like that. We're going down a very, very dark timeline. Just a very, very dark timeline right now, and we're in the middle of it, and it's not pretty. It is.
I just love the visual of like our fans at the watch party and just having one too many drinks, and it's like, hey, call, get on your phone, go to Uber, and type in discount code or promo code UAB71. UAB gave up 71 points.
BVP 71. Hey, and also, before we get any further, major shout out to my wife Elizabeth, man, for putting up with me yesterday after the guys. I was down in the dumps, we all were, and I probably had a few too few too many at Cahaba. And
Natalie, my wife, was taking pictures of me out in the front yard sitting in the lawn chair, and she's like, "Are you doing all right?" I'm just out there on my phone, just can't get off Twitter for the day, and I'm probably sitting there tweeting something out, and she's like, "Are you okay?" So our wives were thinking about us yesterday. So shout out to them. Shout out to them as always.
Yes, Natalie, Elizabeth, Shaniqua, major shout out for putting up with us and just all that y'all do for all three of us. And shout out to all the Blazer wives out there and the Blazer husband. Hey, we are all in this together, you know, through the good and the very bad.
So we can, hey fans, y'all let us know about how your wives or how your husband, if y'all like are the primary UAB Blazer fan, let us know. Just talk to us. How are your spouses supporting you through this, right? If you have a spouse, if you have a partner, I'm wondering, because our spouses, they do a lot to help support us and just kind of keep our spirits up. And but it's hard for us because we can't just check out. We'll never check out on this program. No. We will never check out on these players. And that's where I stop it.
And like Darren mentioned, hey, let us know in the comments on our YouTube channel. Hey, we are at 275 subscribers, 25 away from 300.
Come on, spouses.
Please. Oh yeah. Hey, grab your spouse's phone. Hey, let them subscribe too. They'll get a notification every now and then. But hey, yeah, help us to get to 300. But in the comment section, what Darian just said, how are you getting through this season, and how are you going to get through the rest of the season until basketball
John,
season?
your wife is taking you on a vacation here soon. Where are you guys going?
New York. Hey, I'm excited. We're gonna see Stevie Wonder Thursday night at Madison Square Garden. Man, we're gonna have some good time. We're going to the Jimmy Fallon Haunted House. We're gonna do some fun stuff. Yeah, we're gonna go to a football game at West Point. But hey, we're gonna have us a good time, and we're actually going with a couple of our really great friends, Julie and Alexander. So just definitely look for me on TV again, man. You know, CBS Sports Network likes to show me. So hey, you know, if y'all got a koozie, take a picture of that koozie, and you know I'm gonna have my hands up in the air like this.
Yeah. You might even be this time. You might be double fisted, like, you know, like.
I was gonna say, hey, I might be doing it at kickoff too. So,
but John, honestly, isn't it really? Do we even need to like go over this game? Like, can we just? Do we really want to do that? Like, we just got beat really bad.
What was your favorite Tulane touchdown?
The Mekhi Hughes. The whatever 70-yarder where he just broke.
Shout out, yeah, Birmingham native Mekhi Hughes. You know, my like what the crap moment was, and we talked about this before we started recording, was the Kitna interception that was intended for Dallas Payne, and he got a hand on it, and then the defender immediately hit him, and it just fell perfectly into the hands of a Tulane player. I was like, man, this is a microcosm of this season and how it's been and how it's probably going to go after this. Like, Darian's right. Like, please, listeners, what do y'all want? What do y'all want us to do going forward? We're gonna watch the games. You know, hey, we're gonna be there through the thick and thin, or go to the games. Yeah, spend a lot of money going to them. I don't know. Right now, we're still planning to do an Army preview on Tuesday, hopefully. I mean, guys, I don't know. Darren, you
are we just here? Hey, we gonna always come on, and you know what? The best thing about this all has been like so many fans, just saying, you guys have been the brightest spot, the only bright spot during this season. Like that makes us feel so good. Like,
yes.
And then I was over there by Taziki's, by the hospital, by the Greek festival, walking across the street, and then I hear Darian, and it was Derek Shooter. He was just like, hey man, I watch y'all on the podcast all the time. He stopped, shook my hand. Stuff like that is so cool. I run into fans of the show, and I'm glad that y'all feel the family vibe that we used to have here on the football team, you know. But I'm glad that y'all feel it from us, and that we talk and we can we can find ways to lift each other up because this is going to be a dark season. Not sure if we win another game. So I'm gonna talk about that. I look at the schedule and I'm looking at how everybody. Charlotte just beat the crap out of East Carolina.
East Carolina, yeah.
That was probably the only win if you just looking at it on paper because you still got to go play the games, right? I shout out to Trey Ragland. He put out that back in 2011 when I played, we were like 23-point home underdogs to Southern Miss when they was ranked number 20, and we got after them and beat them. So. You never know. You can win any game, but if I'm looking at this season, the way we've been getting pieced up by everybody, I don't know how we win any game. I was trying to look at the game, man, and I was trying to like find things to analyze. You know, like okay, just take off the fan hat, and it was hurting me. It was hurting me. Like every mistake, I'm just like analyze, and I couldn't make it through the whole game. The first thing is, what are we good at? Anything. Can anybody shout out to, you know what? All of this is dragging down Jonah Delange. Shout out to Jonah Delange. He's perfect on field goals for the season. He's been perfect. He's been awesome. Shout out to him. What are we good at besides that? Giving up touchdowns on kickoffs.
Getting penalties.
We can't get explosive plays, and we can't be consistent because we get penalties and we get put behind the sticks. We're not efficient, right? We give up sacks. We don't get sacks. We aren't good at anything. If you can find something on this team that we're good at, most of the time we can hang our hat on something. So that was one thing I tweeted. I was like, as UAB fans, we used to complain about our offense being boring and predictable. You know, we're good at community service.
And practice.
But that's it. We used to complain about, oh man, run up the middle. You know, the long shot. You got your, you got your big play receiver. You got your third down receiver. Shout out to Joe Craddock, who's the offensive coordinator at Tulane that whooped our butts. That was here. You remember when he was here? We had Hayden Pittman. We had Garrett Prince, and they both was going crazy. That was probably like the funnest era of offense we had here when we had the two tight ends going crazy with Xavier Ubosi and everything. That was a good era of offense. But we had an identity, you know, like we knew we was going to be physical. We used to complain about being undisciplined. We got penalties, but we were so physical. We could run it down your throat. We would do that play action over the top. We had our third down. We knew what we were. And we knew our defense was just tough, stout. David Reeves, all these mixed blitz packages, then we'll drop back, and we just knew. Now and y'all can help me out with this, but I don't see not one thing that we're actually good at out there. Not one.
Hey, I want to share a stat with you that UAB is number one in the country in. UAB is number one in the country in opponent pass attempts per game. So opponents were only passing 17.8 times per game on the UAB defense, some of which might have to do with opponents that UAB is facing are choosing to rush the ball 71% of the time, which is the worst in Division I football. And they are averaging almost 6 yards a carry on the ground, which is ranked 122nd in the country. And that the opponent rush yards per game is just north of 250, which is 129th in FBS. But we are ensuring that opponents are not passing the ball on this UAB defense. John, we see your screen.
Yes, I do have hey, shout out to Welcome to UAB. In preparation of this podcast before we started recording, he sent out a question on X, and I do have that on the screen. I have a question. According to coach, practice looks great every week, but produces poor results during the games. Are we having issues with transitioning practice performances onto the field, or are we poor at evaluating practice performances? And Darian, what are your thoughts to welcome to UAB's question? Because I thought that's a really good question that he's asking.
It could be a mix of both. Like, I think guys are really like, oh man, they practice so well, but do we not have, who is saying that? And do we not have enough experience in D1 college football in these ranks to really know what we're looking at as far as does it look good? Is it really looking how we think it's looking, or is it that we don't have, I don't know, how can I put it, that we don't have enough experience to know what it should look like in practice? I don't know who's saying it, or could just be word salad, man. And I say that because I know we talked about it, but they tried to hype up Cam Shanks. We've been hyping up Zeno. We hype up play, and I'm not saying this is the players' fault, but the way that we hype up players and stuff like there's been little, and it's been a lot of times that we hype up players like, man, they're this, they're that. Well, I don't really like the hype up, and I get it. You know, you try to get eyes on that player so they can get scouted and maybe Senior Bowl and maybe draft, but that ain't the way to do it. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think the way to do it is let them go out there and show that, and then you hype them up. Like Skull and Tajon and all that, they had already put whatever they could. They put that on film. So let's like it makes people not believe you when you hype up. You say this about practice, and you say this, and you go out there and what you. I'm looking for the guy. What do I see? I don't see anything. So I'm looking for these performances in practice. We got our ass beat again. That's 3 times in a row. 3 times in a row, you know. And another thing I'm thinking about is I'm gonna go and talk about this because Trent decided to put this quote out there. He said, not me. I'm just saying what he said. It was a lot of weak players from the last staff from recruiting that was out there, and that was kind of a problem. Kind of got to get players in, whatever. Well, you looked a lot more competitive with those weak players. I'm not calling the players weak. That he might not have been talking about the ones that played last year, but a lot of those guys that played, the Skulls, the Tajons, the Fishers, the Swoops, the Fairbanks, and I can keep on going. A lot of those guys, at least you competed with. We only won 3 or 4 games last year, but we actually competed. We were in shootouts. Now this year, you got more of your guys. You went to the transfer portal, or whatever. You got the depth and blah blah blah. You got your guys in. A lot more of your guys anyway. We look weaker, right? So that's why I'm like, what am I supposed to be listening to? Or what excuse I'm going to get? What are we building? What are we building? I keep hearing about building. I don't want to hear nothing else about building. How do you look? Building is when you establish a foundation, and then you create something on top of that. We have gotten worse than last year, and we keep on talking about we're building and building. Don't say anything else about building. Nothing else, please, because I just need to know.
Right. You can't tell the fans to be patient and to not jump off the island now. Like when we are seeing the results right now on the field, and Darian is 100% correct. This product through what are we 1-4 through 5 games this season is way worse than what we saw on the football field last year. You aren't building anything. It's the opposite. You're tearing it down. And, I don't want to pick on Trent in particular, but I'm just saying with the stats don't lie. This is a bad product right now through 5 games. So, John,
what would you say is the reason this question has been boggling me? Like, how are we this much worse than last year with a quote unquote easier schedule?
Right.
So we played a more experienced Tulane team with, a lot of guys that left and that went to the NFL and all that. We played that team last year at Tulane and gave them a run. how do we have this product at home this year? Like, John, do you have any kind of theory that you can possibly throw out there?
No, I don't think anybody knows. And Trent said in his post game presser, he don't know how to get them tough. Or what was the quote that Tulane just out physicaled them. And I'm tired of hearing every week, that was a good Navy team. That was a good Tulane team. That was a good Alcorn State team. That was a good Arkansas team. At the end of the day, you've got to start looking in the mirror like, hey, like, we don't look good. So is practice good? He said it multiple times, even coming off the bye week. He thought that practice leading up to this Navy game was the best week of practice, or he felt very strongly about that. And then you put that product on the field, and you put it on the field again this week against, all respect to Tulane. It was a good team, but this wasn't a ranked team that dog walked us. This was not the Tulane of last year that had playoff aspirations, conference championship aspirations. I mean, no, very, very well. I mean, I'm rooting for Tulane, and maybe they can prove me wrong. But to get boat raced in your own stadium 2 weeks in a row, how do you expect fans to keep going to these games? Like, how?
Ain't this a Tulane team with the new coach that has to build,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Hey, he ain't talking about build. Hey, John Summerall ain't talking about building. He came in the day that he was hired, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but he said that they were going to win championships, and they're going to the playoffs. He's putting money where his mouth is, man. John Summerall is not giving excuses. He didn't give excuses after the Kansas State loss. He didn't give any excuses after the Oklahoma loss. They're just grinding, and they're playing winning football. And UAB is not playing winning football. And I don't care. I really don't know how you can take anything positive out of what happened yesterday or the past week against Navy.
Jimmy, do you have any kind of stats or something that can kind of something to make sense of like what we're saying? Something like help me understand, because I just really can't piece this together. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, so I do have a few stats to share with you that aren't directly related to this topic that we can transition to in a second. But, to me, I will never come on this show or pretend to be anywhere or any kind of expert as it relates to X's and O's and schematics and what's going on. Half the time, Trent Dilfer, coaches in particular, any coach rather, can be talking about stuff and I'm not necessarily following. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I can review what's going on in the field and be like, hey, this is the reason why. But what I would question and what I think about is at some point, if you're told something over and over again and you're not seeing like the results, I think that the doubt is going to creep in. And so I think as more time passes and the results aren't there, that I think that's why, in my opinion, you're seeing the snowball effect of that. So I think that belief has to be at somewhat of an all-time low, despite what we're told, about the status of the team, some of which may be true. There are certainly players on that team that I would envision are 100% bought in. But I would also argue that each and every week that we have performances like that, that percentage drops. And we're getting back to the point where I heard Clark talk about recently, Bill Clark, one of the first meetings that he had with the UAB football team when he took over, he was in the locker room. And the players wouldn't even look him in the eye. They were so down. Like they didn't believe in themselves. And what we're witnessing right now is a trajectory back to the point where this team doesn't believe in themselves. And I feel terrible for them. It sucks as a fan to watch this, but these are guys that have these lofty aspirations to support themselves and their families and to make money, to be successful and do all this stuff. And they can control what they can control, but at the same time, there's stuff that they can't control. They can't control if their jersey gets called, if their name gets called for a certain play, if they're provided the right instruction and development. And just early indications here are that each and every week, Like I can only feel for that team. But to not be a complete Debbie Downer, at least to try not to be as sad. I wanted to share a couple of things. So a couple of things just like high level. So UAB just lost back-to-back home games. Do y'all care to guess when the last time UAB lost back-to-back home games?
2013.
Under Garrick McGee.
Yeah. It was 2014 under Clark, but it was the La Tech Marshall back-to-back. It was the final 2 home games of the season. It was a Marshall game we talked about last time. Close contest. And let me give you one other statistic here about close contest. So in 2022, interim head coach Bryant Vincent finished the season, as we know, with a 7-6 record. In those 6 losses, UAB was defeated by a combined 48 points. On Saturday, UAB lost a home conference game by 51 points. So we're talking about 6 losses in 2022. He was 1-5 in 1-score games. Fluke, you had the 3 fumbles, I think, in the first half on the road at Liberty in Game 2, the curse of Game 2s. But this man, Brian Vincent, lost 6 games by a combined 48 points, a year in which he played at LSU now. So LSU, I believe, was in the top 25.
Yeah, they were in the top 10 for that game.
Yeah, that was the Harold Perkins era. I remember all of that.
Yeah. So UAB is in this position currently where we're not competitive in these games. Like, we are not competitive. And I want to talk about something right now is I would argue that 90+%, even higher, that I see on social media is pointing the finger at places where Trent has said it himself, like, hey, point the finger at me. Okay, well, that's what we're doing. A lot of people are pointing the finger at you. But there's like a couple of people, I saw one guy in particular that was like, NIL, NIL, NIL. You know, UAB doesn't have NIL, and we need to be thinking about stuff like that. And he wasn't a UAB fan, by the way. But let me kind of go back to, I think, a conversation that we had last week when these comments were first made about, you know, UAB is not freaking Alabama. Is what in God's name is the expectation that anybody is going to be given their money to this type of product? And this is the question I want to propose, and this is the route I want to go down quick, is how should UAB fans respond right now? And I want to talk a little bit about this because here's where I think that UAB fans are unique. And our situation, let me say it that way, is unique. Other fan bases have the privilege of protesting, of sitting out, of not giving financially in an effort to make or deliver a message to the administration. If we don't go to games, look at that confetti. If we don't go to games, man, I wish we were winning a conference championship at Protective Stadium and confetti was coming down. I'm just thinking about moments like that. But if we we don't have the privilege to just not show up to games, to not give money. And to the extent that you're giving money now, to the extent that you have season tickets now, to the extent that you show up now, that you support now, other fan bases have the privilege. My point is that they can take that back without fear that that same action will be used against them to shut the program down. And that is the most difficult thing for me right now to think about is what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to give more? If you give more, is that the message that you're like, hey, you're supporting him? It's not, there's no accountability, like, or is it like, hey, no matter what the result is, we're just going to show up anyways? And some teams do that. You look at a team like Nebraska, and they weren't very good for a while, and they would pack out their damn stadium for a volleyball game and had sellouts and stuff. And I envy that. But we are not the University of Nebraska. We are nowhere close to the same position as they are. So
we're not Louisville either for volleyball.
Yeah. I was surprised that there hasn't been any more strays at the UAB men's tennis team, or just these people like the same volleyball team just catching strays. It's like every week. But what do we do, guys? What do we tell our fans to do? Because I do believe, to y'all's earlier point, that people want to hear from us, and this is therapeutic for us. I think it's therapeutic for them as well. What do we talk about? We're not going to talk. These are things I want to talk about right now. So if y'all want to hear us talk about these bigger picture stuff, let us know. If y'all want to hear us go through the box score and see why our starting QB had a 1.9 QBR, we can talk about that. But while we were -3 in the turnover margin, again, how we couldn't force a redshirt freshman, QB into any turnovers, or Tulane at all into any turnovers, how we couldn't get to the quarterback, and we haven't had a sack in 3 out of our 5 games. And one of the games in which we had sacks was against Alcorn State. Every time we get to the red zone, we stall like a broken car, and we just fall to pieces, and we continue to kick field goals, knowing that you aren't going to be able to sustain the points because your defense is giving up the points that it is. I mean, 5 first downs. We could talk about all that if y'all want to, but I don't think people want to hear about that. I think they want to hear, where do we go from here as a fan? Do we keep going? Do we keep giving? Do we go more? Do we give more? Do we not go? Do we give less? John, I want to throw it to you first. Like, just your overall thoughts. Like, what message would you give? Because we're going to have the same conversation for the rest of the season. How many games are we in? 5? So my math's not good. We got 7 games left, 7 weeks. We have a bye week thrown in there. What do we do for the rest of this college football season, John?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jimmy. I mean, I had told y'all, I think it was yesterday or maybe today, I run together, that I don't intend on renewing my season tickets next year if the product continues the way it is. But it's tough, man. Like Jimmy said, like, you already see the comments on X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. And then this is from non-UAB fans throwing in, where's everybody at? Why are those stands so empty? You know, I mean, but like yesterday in particular, 85 degrees. And y'all know where I sit. I'm in the sun the whole freaking game. And I've got my kids with me. I've got my dad didn't even want to go this time.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was there. Y'all see that selfie? I should have posted that selfie on Twitter. But it's miserable to sit out there for 3.5 hours watching this product. So no, I don't blame any fans that don't want to go to any of the remainder games this year. And if next year's the same, looking like the same thing, I don't blame any fan, because we work hard for our money as everybody else does. And I'm just like mad that, I've got this New York trip booked to go out to West Point. I did that, non-refundable, by the way. I know people are tired of hearing about it. And I've got a non-refundable Memphis trip on my daughter's birthday. Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, Army opens as 21 favorite.
21 points,
dude. I'd never. Yeah, against a triple option team. What?
21. The over/unders with these service academies go against each other. Although Navy's starting to throw the ball a little more. 21 points. We were 28-point dogs at Georgia last year in first year under Trent Dilfer. 21 points is shocking.
I guarantee you,
and it's going to grow
up to 24. Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna get up to 24, probably 28. I bet people are hammering. I'm sure. Hey, after they saw that yesterday, they're like, "All right, man. Hey, hammer down. Hey, give me that outline stuff. Yeah, let me. Yeah, it's crazy, but this is just so hard. As a fan and media, like, it's so hard to have these conversations, and it's so sad to have these conversations about, like, should you go to the games, should you not go to the games? I feel like it's a lose-lose either way, because I mean, you're losing by not going to the games and not buying tickets, because of the perception is going to continue to be bad. But you're going to lose if you go in the stands and see that product, and you're going to see the team lose bad. So I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. Darian, do you have an answer?
Yeah, and the answer is just do what's best for you. And this is the rare occasion where there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer. I do feel like that the only thing that we do have to stand on is thank God we did have Bill Clark here in BV, and they did win 6. We did have those 6 straight winning seasons, and we did win championships, and the stands were packed and full of energy. So we know what the product can be, and we also know that there's another level, because even under Clark, as much as he built it up, we didn't hit that top level that we were looking to hit. Now I believe he probably would have hit if whatever happened with the administration wouldn't have went down the way it did. But I do believe that this can go to another level, but so I do think that if you don't go to the game and you don't give and you don't renew season tickets, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? I think it's holding them accountable until they show it's not about just losing. I don't want people to get it confused that it's just about W's and L's. It's about how. It's about how we look. That's what it's about. We've lost. We've done that before. But at least we came out with pride. We were competitive and we fought. Dude, we got boat raced by the guy that Mark Ingram let go, the AD, by the guy that the players campaigned for. And if you go back, even we was kind of looking out, first off, humble pie. I learned a lot, so this guy, first, apologies to Skip Holtz. I remember just like going, I was leading that brigade, and Skip Holtz like, oh no. But at that time, and we looking at it from that perspective, he was a guy that was let go by La Tech, right? I was like, we're supposed to be trying to punch up. Like Bill Clark isn't here anymore. That's a good punch. But we had all this time to figure out what we wanted to do. If we weren't going to bring BV back, we were like, I thought we were going to be reaching for the sun. But, we hired Trent and whatnot. And it's kind of like, okay, everybody had to kind of take a step back, but we all supported Trent and whatnot. But the guy that you did let go, that everybody campaigned for, he beats your ass, 32-6. You don't score a touchdown against him on the road. This is his first year, and that was supposedly the worst. You talking about having to build something, and then we can go into this too. You talking about having to build something? He didn't have anything to work with.
80 new players,
yo. He didn't have anything to work with, and he literally had to create something out of thin air. The guy that you let go to hire this guy, right? He just beat an undefeated team. The same day we gave up 71 points, he beat an undefeated team to go 4-1.
And shout out, James Madison put up 70 on North Carolina a couple weeks ago. So, and you held them to, what was the final?
19 points, 21-19. So that guy, he did that over there for their program, and they're 4-1. The guy, and I know I complain it's so much humble pie, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I always complained about his offense. Like, man, we just need a new offensive coordinator. He was always a great head coach to me. He was always a great head coach. I just wasn't a fan of the offense. But at this point, I don't care. And I realize that as a fan base, we should be educated by this. It's like, appreciate what you have while you have it, because you don't know how bad it could get. And we should have seen that Trent was going to have to learn on the fly. I mean, he was a high school coach. A lot of people try to compare it to Deion. I remind people, Deion won. First of all, it's Deion Sanders. Second of all, he won so much at JSU. They won championships. He brought in number one recruits. His son was a top recruit himself. Like, he did all that. He was able to leverage his celebrity. And then he went to Colorado. Trent came straight here from high school. Just straight here from high school. And guess what? None of those players from Lipscomb even came. None of them. I thought we was going to get some of them. I thought he was going to be able to kind of leverage that, but we didn't even get those guys from Tennessee that we thought that maybe would. What about an Elite 11 Q QB, no, oh, okay, like, all right. So all of that is just, to me, it's just kind of like, we need to appreciate, we need to take perspective, is what I'm saying. So my perspective, all this to tie back in, is like, now I have perspective on that. I feel way more educated. I am sorry to Brian Vincent, even though we said we might as well keep him. I do remember that. If you can go back, we were like, we might as well keep BV. Like,
We
if
did. We did.
But I apologize. I now know the era of my thoughts and ways at the time. We were kind of spoiled as a fan base because what we had done, that we couldn't properly kind of see what we should be seeing at the time. But shout out to them for doing what he's doing at ULM. I just want better days. After giving up 70 at home and then watching ULM do that, it's kind of like, ooh, what does that say about Mark Ingram, right? Because, and I'm being fair here, and I'm not going after anybody or whatever. This is what it is. Whatever happened with Bill Clark happened. We all know there was some fishy stuff. And then you didn't bring BV back, and you are the one that decided to go this route. And maybe the fan base is the ones that dissuaded them from getting Skip Holtz. and again, I apologize for that. And another salt on the wound is Skip Holtz has done nothing but win with the Stallions, like championship after championship. So it's like we looking around at the options. It's kind of like, damn, like we went this route. So another red flag was like, it wasn't any kind of experience hired around Trent. None at all. We go back to Deion. If you want to go back to Deion, if you still want to compare that, Deion, I went back and I looked at his staff. He had plenty of experience around him, plenty of it. At the college level, at the pro level. We got high school guys. We got analysts in our major spots. We needed some experience to help with this transition, but I remember Jimmy saying it's like we gotta learn on the job. And we just aren't in the position to learn on the job. We transitioned to another conference, and we look like a bottom of the barrel CUSA team is what we look like. I wouldn't put us up against. I believe La Tech would beat us. I believe Middle Tennessee would probably beat us. UTEP would probably beat us at this point. I don't have any confidence that we can beat anybody right now. We just, so I don't know, guys, man. I just felt like I had to get that off I just wanted to make those comparisons and just be real about it. And whatever you make of that, you make of that. So you can stay at home. You don't got to watch the games or whatever. But I do know when things do turn around, whether it's with this staff or with another staff, we need to learn from those lessons that we have, and we need to pack that stadium and appreciate good product. Appreciate that's if it's one thing it's taught me, is to appreciate. I don't care if it's Trent. I don't care if it's end up being Skip Holtz or Tyson Hilton or whatever. I don't care who it is. If you put your time and you put that, it's a community again. It's a family. We see execution. We see details. Everything that we want to see out of a team. We better take our butts out there. We better cheer like hell. We better go to these games and do whatever. But I now know to appreciate good product, and I won't be doing all that complaining when we get that. And it's going to come, y'all. Just keep the faith. It's going to come again. I don't know how or when, but we'll be back. We'll be back up there. We'll be competing. But when we are, let's show up and show out, just like we're going to do for Andy Kennedy and his basketball team. I can't wait for that first basketball game. I'm going to pack it out because this lesson, this feeling, like you said, John, you was down in the dumps. I couldn't even analyze. I had to just turn it off. You know how many former players are speaking out on their Facebook, on their Twitter. All of the former players are just sick. I saw the spouses of former players posting about stuff in their stories and stuff. I'm like, this is bad. This is embarrassing. And guys when the former players aren't feeling it anymore, it's almost a wrap, So again, let's appreciate the good times when we have it, when they do come back.
Real quick, major shout out to Cedric Buchanan. Had a great conversation with him at the game yesterday. So major shout out. I know he supported us from the beginning, Patreon supporter. So, former player. Major shout out to Cedric. And we have a lot of former players that listen to us. Whether it's AJ, a bunch. I don't really want to name because I'll leave people out. But everybody in this community feels the same way about what's going on right now. So Darren, I thought that was very well said, to give our listeners that point of view. Just do what's best for you right now, Jimmy, I know we're running a little long, but do we want to hit on his Trent's apology? Oh, I'm sorry, Trent's apology that he said on radio pregame, and we were gonna play it on the show, but I just don't want anything like copyright or, I know Learfield does a great job, and David Crane, we're not going to play it, but go on X, UAB Athletics fan, Jimmy tweeted it out. So go listen to that if y'all haven't already.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I know that we are going long, but I think that, our fans would like to hear some quick commentary on the situation, how it's played out this far. Most of everyone that listens to us knows that it's been one heck of a 7 or 8 days to be a UAB football fan, all stemming from a few comments made by our head coach and leader of our football program, Trent Dilfer, following the Navy loss. Everybody knows what he said. It's not like we're freaking Alabama. It's been addressed by us and others. But then as you think about the response from that, the rest of the week has just been a disaster. Starting with Monday, what really, for anybody that's followed me and my account online for as long as I've had it, which would be, I guess, probably around a decade now, been through some good times, been through some bad times. I'm not one to be negative. I have not ever seen value in it. I've gone silent versus being negative. But when Trent responded the way he did to John, I mean, it was just like, why bother at this point? I think I voiced this last week, but John's a good man. He's a friend. This isn't just a hobby that we do together. Like, we've grown. We got similar age children, all three of us. And I know John walked in this guy's house, and he's got a man cave or a basement full of UAB helmets and signed posters and gear. He's got the largest collection of Dwayne McBride autographed cards that exist on this planet, football memorabilia. Again, he's a guy that went to Alabama, graduate, and supports UAB because he loves it, who travels, spends time with or away from his family, to UAB events, been doing the longest tenured podcast that supports UAB ever through adversity. And for someone to treat John the way they did was just massively disrespectful. And after that moment,
it was the question, Jimmy. It was the were you there? You there? Were you? What do you mean he was there? How many times has? The question is, what has he not been there for? You're right.
Yes.
That to me was just, don't do that. Don't do that. And to me, that's when I really just turned the page on Trent. I turned the page because that was, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just had that question just drove me nuts.
Yeah. And, John is a professional. Not that we are not, but sometimes you just have to speak up for people. And this is totally out of character for me. Totally out of character. But it's important. I don't regret a single word. And I'm going to keep going. Because that's not the type of until there's an apology to John, which he has not asked for, which he doesn't expect. Until there's an apology to John, until there's actually a real apology to fans, like, I'm going to keep going. So that's what it is. But again, so it started on Monday when there was just a layup opportunity there, and then we went a whole week where things were silent, and there were some questions about, or there was a comment made by Beat writer Steve Irvine on X has said that, hey, Trent had elaborated on it after Wednesday's practice. And, in our group thread, we were talking a little bit like, hey, do we expect a piece? And then we're like, hey, there might not be a piece. Like, there's been several other pieces from Birmingham Banner. Maybe we're not going to get one. Why is that? We were contemplating back and forth. And I don't know if there ever was going to be another piece. And the reason why is because the comments from Wednesday that Steve received from Trent were just insane. Like, again, so I'm looking here, quote, I didn't really think anything of it. Still haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. And there was more to that quote. But so we went from, and again, I think I put on X, like, the least surprising thing about that was he was saying that, Mark Ingram was in the room and that he also did not think anything of the initial comments. And again, it is at that point, read the room. Read the room of the UAB fans. Like, this isn't Jimmy complaining about this and that's it. Go online. And guess what? This isn't just UAB. We've talked about this. You go online and just look at what people are saying about Trent Dilfer, UAB fan or not. AAC, other teams, national media writers for college football. It's everybody. Like, it ain't just us. So this isn't UAB fans whining and complaining, big baby, soft, all this stuff. This is bigger than that. So anyways, during the game, like halftime, Birmingham Banner Steve Irvine releases the article of the transcript of the Trent addressing the comments. And I read the transcript from the Saturday pregame, which we'll talk about in a second, but it says, quote, like, I had some comments that were taken out of context that I apologize that people took the wrong way. Well, Darian, you said word salad earlier. I mean, if that's not an apology. I'm sorry, Darian, that, you took offense to what I said that was out of context and that you got your feelings hurt about it. And when the audio came out, if y'all haven't listened to it yet, it was woe is me. It was, I had a tough week. Well, apparently through Wednesday, you didn't think a damn thing about it. So when did you start having a tough week? Was it Thursday when you had the reaction about just the women's volleyball team just catching strays? On the Inferno podcast, we didn't talk about that. And it's like, they're over here trying to do their normal course of business, just operating as normal. And then they're listening to a podcast. Like, why don't you go play at the University of Louisville? Well, okay. Well, that's good PR because, anyways, so we won't go down further than that. But then, so when did your week become hard? Was it Thursday? And then to me, the dude did it. He doubled down. He tripled down. And then, in my opinion, he was told he had to apologize. It was scripted. And one thing that really bugs me is the fact that they made the statement on a pregame radio show. I'll be honest with you guys. If Steve Irvine, thank you, Steve, for writing the article on Birmingham Banner, wouldn't have said it, how many people would have actually heard that? Who listens to a pregame radio show at a home game? If you're on the road and I'm sitting around getting ready for the game to get started, we're walking into the stadium. Like, who's listening? So I'm going to pick strategically the time I'm going to release this, using other examples, I'm going to release this news drop at 5:05 p.m. I'm going to send out a message to the whole organization that the business closed at 5:05 p.m. on a Friday when everybody left. Nobody was around to even hear it. Like, save it for the post game. It is just mishandled from start to finish, and you lost the fan base, man. Like, you just did. And for a small G5 program like UAB, we're the ones that are going to be there, rain or shine. But now we actually might not be, because not only are we losing, but you're being a jerk. Like, you can't be a jerk and lose. If you were 5-0 right now and you told us to go screw ourselves, we'd probably say, thanks, may I have another? And I'll see you next week, coach.
We would say, yes, sir, coach.
Yeah, like, hey, this guy's a jerk and he is getting it done. Like, this guy speaks the truth. I love it. But you can't be a jerk and lose. You can't do both. And that is where we are right now. So I know that was too long, but I had to, like, Darren had to get out his thing earlier. Like, I got to get out my thing too. I hope to just, I hope that I'll find a mental space where I can just drop it. I'm about to delete the X app for like a week. I'm going to try. I'm not going to commit to that. But this whole week, I'm so disappointed. Like, and I know other people are too. And again, I just want to go back to us talking about, like, hey, we're competitive on the field. How do we get better? Like, the culture's so good. Like, we can get like we can turn this ship around. Here's why we can do it. But right now Jimmy's spending all this time talking about just literally someone that cannot even apologize well. And he can't even meet the other coach at the midfield after the game without looking like he wants to make out with him. Get your hands off that man's face.
Well, I don't even know what happened right there. But one thing I do want to talk about is that another thing that he said while he was saying that, it was like we're dealing with basically people with hurt feelings, kind of trying to add context to like us possibly taking what he said out of context. He's trying to add context to that, said like, oh yeah, with the history and is, they have hurt feelings, so I know it can be a sensitive topic that could lead to, that's kind of where that's leading to. No, we're just looking for accountability. That's it. So if we're talking about that, I know one thing that Trent says a lot. He says that, like he said, I kind of didn't think about it. I wasn't thinking about it. He said that Wednesday. I didn't think about it. A lot of times he says that he doesn't pay such and such any mind. And honestly, since he was psychologizing us, I'm going to psychologize you. Trent is a guy that brings up a lot. He talks about how he's been booed out of stadiums, how he has tough skin. All right. He's a guy, he lost his son, right? If we talking about he's a guy that's been through a lot, and he had to muster through that. He's been called the worst quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl. That's not a compliment. They're saying that that the team won in spite of you. So he had to tune out so much to get to where he's at. And I respect that. I do, because he had to block out the noise. I think he's in a unique position, honestly, because he talks about what he doesn't listen to so much. I don't listen to that. I don't pay that no mind. He's done it his way to get to where he's at. And he's been wildly successful doing it that way. But now I do think you're in a position to where you have to listen to a lot of what's going on. You do have to listen. You have to adjust your filter. That's a lot you do have to block out, but you need to adjust what you're listening to, because you said what you said, double down, triple down. You would have quadrupled down, honestly, because I believe that's the type of guy he is. But I think it was important to add context to why he may be the way he is, because he's had to be that way, and he rolled the dice on himself, and so far he's gotten here. He's been successful. I think he skipped one too many steps to get here, and I think that experience is hurting. But I do respect how he's gotten here. I just wish that he finds a way to, like what we're saying, what the fans are saying, you have to listen. We're here together. One thing that Brian Vincent understands: family, together, community. We have to be aligned. Everybody on one page all the way down. You can't say, nah, I ain't listening to that. I ain't listening to that. I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to that. Nah, you can't do that, because where's the growth gonna occur if you're not listening only to the people that you want to listen to? The growth is not gonna be able to occur. So that's what I believe is what's going on. So it's a sense of respect of what he's done and how he's done it, and the tough skin he has gained through it. But I just think that he just needs to open up to listening and taking criticism, valid criticism, where nobody is piling on here. We're telling the truth. And he's not a sensitive guy. We ain't sensitive people, whatever. We're going to just tell it how it is. And you know what, Jimmy, through all of this, if he can go out there and beat Army, guess what? We're going to cheer Trent Dilfer. We're going to cheer him on. I want people to understand that. We're saying what we're saying. It's not like, F this guy, he said this to John, we don't want him to be successful at all. No, he go out there, beat Army. He go out there, beat South Florida, guess what? Guess who's going to be back in the stands? We're so back. Like, I'm a pop beers like I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Because in order for UAB to be successful, right now, Trent needs to be successful. In order for Amari Thomas, in order for Kelvin Hill and all those guys to be successful on the team, Jacob Zeno, everybody, we need Trent to be successful. My pride is not above, oh man, look how horrible this guy is. We have to get him out by any means necessary. No. But like you said, you can't lose one. You can't not be competitive when you lose. let's talk about that. You can't not be competitive, and then you can't be dismissive. You can't be dismissive like, nah, if all that we're building, nah, I ain't listening to that. We're building. This guy is so wonderful. We're building him up. No. We had the best practice. You can't do all of that stuff. Honestly, like, he's a guy that talks a lot. He likes to, dog. Now it just sounds like you're a salesman. Now that's what it comes off as now, to be honest, if we're being honest. So I don't know if anybody is telling him, and I doubt he'll listen. I highly doubt he'll listen to this.
He won't.
He probably won't listen. But I want to put it out there at least, like, you're gonna come off as a salesman. Nobody's gonna believe it. Nobody's gonna believe it. And so maybe you quadruple down on your stance and you do it your way. You say, hey, I can't listen to y'all. I know what I'm building. I just got to keep going. Or you open yourself up to listen to it and say, maybe this will work. I don't know the answer, because Trent has gotten to where he's gotten here, and he's been wildly successful over the course of his life. And I applaud that. But I don't know if that formula will work in this position. And I just hope maybe Bill Clark can get on the phone with him and talk, something. I don't know. I don't know what the advice or what it is, or maybe it's nothing like that. Maybe it just is what it is. Maybe it just is not working. Maybe it will work. We don't know. But I hope the best for him. I really do, because in order for a UAB to, I want to cheer. I want to go have fun with my kids and, pop beers and get told to shut up, BVP. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about because he's winning games by 21. I'd be like, you know what, John? You know what, Timmy? We don't know what the hell we talking about. We gonna shut up. Yes, sir, Trent. But that's not the case.
I will sell my body and I will sell my soul for a UAB football victory. I don't care.
Oh my
gosh, baby, just win.
Yeah. Well, that is over an hour. Do I want to get? Because I was sharing my screen earlier. I mean, I guess I should, since I brought it up. Let me.
This is kind of like a therapy session anyway. So.
Yeah, right. Hey, shout out Birmingham Sport on Twitter. Great guy. We communicated with him, a little bit, and I know he supports our podcast. So he was at post game for after the loss yesterday at Tulane. Quote, this is from Trent Dilfer, quote, I apologize to the team for not getting them ready for that type of physical nature of football. I'll say to the fans, I think you deserve more. The city of Birmingham deserves more. If you are going to be angry, please be angry at me. Don't be angry at our kids. Our kids are giving us everything they have. It's my job to make sure something like this never happens again. End quote. My response to that is nobody is blaming the players on the kids. Like, everything is directed at you because you are the head coach of this football team. And as we've stated before, you've chosen to not only double down, triple down, quadruple down on your comments that you made last week. And it is what it is, like Darian just said. But I just want every player that's on that roster right now that's listening to our podcast. We are 100% behind you. BVP is never going to shave or slight a player. That's just not how we do things. So 100% we are behind this team. And I just wanted to bring that tweet up just as we close. Like, we are still behind this team and program. All right. You guys, any last parting thoughts as we wrap?
Shout out to the Blazers.
The Blazers, shout out. Yes. Well, all right, guys, this will do it for the recap of the Tulane debacle. And we'll be back probably Tuesday to preview what's going to happen in West Point as UAB travels up to West Point to take on the Army Knights. As always, thank you for Kahava.
Hey, one thing, we kind of mentioned the spouses, and it just kind of hit my spirit real quick. Shout out to the spouses of the coaches.
Yes.
I know this can be hard on y'all. Y'all got to hear people like us say these things, and we're not coming down on Trent. We're not coming down on Sione or none of that. We're not coming down on these. We're just trying to be realistic, and we're trying to be objective, even though it might have a slight bias to it because we were here before them and we're going to be here after them. But shout out to y'all because we talked about what our spouses do for us. And, we saw, Bill Clark, his wife would be feisty. She was feisty. She would be in the groups and she would.
Oh, I love Jennifer. Yeah.
Jennifer would knock you out, boy. Like she would go back and forth with you. And I know Holly had to deal with it. I put a tweet out congratulating Brian Vincent yesterday. He liked it. And then Holly liked it as well. And I remember meeting Holly and talking to her. She was just so sweet and sweet. Just so positive, no matter what happened, So just I think it's important just to highlight the spouses. Shout out to y'all. I know y'all got to deal with the national media. I feel kind of sad for Trent's wife in a sense because now she got to look at all these people calling her husband like all whatever names he's been called. National media, they've been calling him all kinds of failures and blah blah blah. And they have kids. They have, but that's what come along with it. But I do at least want to acknowledge you guys. We acknowledge our spouses, but I know they're not carrying half of the water that y'all carrying when it comes to this program because y'all gotta. They probably cry themselves to sleep about this type of stuff. They don't. Not, the kids and everything, they have to avoid all that, and they naturally just want to defend them. So, again, I just want to acknowledge you guys, highlight you guys, and I'm going to keep you guys in my prayer. I can't imagine being in that position. So, shout out to the spouses of the coaches.
Yeah, speaking of kids, I think my kids are going to come downstairs. So, we got a wrap. As always, Just Blaze. Hey, patreon.com/BlazerPod if you want to support us and get some extra interviews and all that stuff. Hey, we love y'all for our Patreon supporters. And if you just listen to this pre-show, we love every single one of you. Like Darian said, I think he said at the beginning of the episode, like these episodes are really tough on us. But because of y'all listen and you constantly listening to us and supporting us. This is why we do what we do. So wrapping up, we'll see you on Tuesday. Jimmy, were you about to say something?
Nope. Go Blazers.
The Blazers.